Hello, welcome to another edition of A Glimpse Through the Veil. I'm Gabreael, and I am your host. Today I'd like to welcome Bunky Bartlett. He's here to talk with us about the law of attraction. For those of you who are unaware of Bunky's story, Bunky won the lottery, the Mega Millions lottery, and I believe you won somewhere around $49 million. Is that correct? Before taxes.
Yeah, that's correct, before taxes. Taxes really takes a big chunk.
Yeah, I bet. I bet it put you down to around 30 or 20 some million dollars, huh?
It's 33 million actually.
Wow. Well, before you won the lottery, were you not an accountant? I think I read somewhere you were an accountant.
Correct. Yes, I was an accountant.
Well, I bet we won't see you on one of those lottery horror stories where you lost everything and you're so broke.
No, and if nothing else, my wife won't allow that to happen. So even if I spend a lot, she's not going to allow it to happen.
All right. I've invited you on today to talk about the law of attraction and several things because you're also a pagan. You're the first open pagan who's won the lottery and is talking about it. So let's talk about what happened before you won the lottery. And we talked a little bit about that before we went on air. And I ask you what I'm going to ask you now. Before you won the lottery, did you sit and envision yourself winning the lottery?
Oh, all the time. Well, not all the time, but yes, many times. I mean, the few times that I actually did go out and actually buy a ticket, you look at the money because I never really played it until it was over $100 million. At that point was the only time that I would actually think about even buying a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're playing something that's, you have a possibility of winning over $100 million, you have a tendency to envision, okay, what am I going to do with this money? Especially from my background, one of the first things I envisioned was, okay, how can I make this money make me more money?
Mm-hmm.
Because you think $100 million is a lot of money, but just as the example, with taxes and everything else, it does reduce it, and then you think, this has got to last me, my family, and, maybe future generations, so how can I continue to have this money make more money? So that was part of the envisioning. And then the rest of the envisioning was, would I buy a house? Would I build my church? Would I, what would I really do with all of this?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that's wonderful. So the day that you won it, you had prayed about winning it, correct?
Well, actually, it was about a month before that.
Okay.
It wasn't an instantaneous thing.
So what did you do?
Well, basically, it came about out of frustration with the powers that be. Because I was going to different readers and getting different types of readings, different mediums and some tarot cards and stuff, because I was trying to actually gain some guidance in my own life, because I was building an accounting business, because actually the accounting business, I had my own company. And it was getting to the point where, do I do accounting or do I teach? How can I do both? And it was becoming an issue being able to try and do both teaching, religious classes and doing the accounting, but the accounting was what was bringing in the money to feed my family and house my family.
Mm-hmm.
So all the messages I started getting were, make your days less busy. And it's like, okay, well, if I make my days less busy, I'll be teaching religious classes from a box on the street. I don't think that's what they mean. So, it just got to a point where I sat in the coffee shop at Mystical Voyage, and I said, okay, here's the deal. You want me to make my days less busy, then you need to make me win the lottery so that I can make my days less busy and I can teach more. And that's pretty much what I said, not really thinking, oh, this is a real going to happen thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a general, okay, I'm frustrated, I'm tired of hearing y'all tell me this, so, okay, fine, here's the deal, kind of the thing. And And, it was actually almost a month after that before we actually won, and partly because I didn't remember to buy tickets. So if I'm going to make a deal, I have to at least meet the gods halfway and buy the ticket in order to win. So I did play it once, and I didn't win. And I said, okay, well, whatever. And then the jackpot started growing, and it was like, okay, well, if they're going to, have me win the lottery, then I guess I got to play it, huh? So we were actually coming to an event here at Mystical Voyage on a Friday night, and we had stopped to pick up dinner, and there was a liquor store that sold lottery tickets a couple stores up. So as we were going in for dinner, I said to my wife, I said, how about you go and buy some lottery tickets? I'll order dinner, and then we'll head over to Mystical Voyage. So that's what we did. And I pretty much just put the lottery tickets in my wallet, in my back pocket, and kind of forgot about it. And it wasn't until the next morning when my wife saw the CNN website that stated that the winner was here in Maryland, and she continued to read, and she noticed that it was in, the shopping center and then the liquor store that we bought the tickets at. So she then proceeded to call me down from bed and say, have you checked the tickets yet? And I'm like, no, I usually don't. She said, well, I think you might want to. So that's when I did. And that's when we found out that, we had won the lottery.
And that's wonderful. So
very wonderful.
So you envisioned yourself winning, and you spoke, and you asked for it, and the universe sent it back to you. Now let's talk about that for just a minute. Being that you were a pagan and you were very open about it, did you get any weird emails? Did you get any weird phone calls, anything threatening, or were people pretty nice and pretty cool about it?
People have been very nice and very cool about it. I have not gotten any threatening emails or threatening messages whatsoever. I've got a lot of supportive stuff. Of course, you get a lot of, and it doesn't matter what religion you are when you win the lottery, you get a lot of, give me money. Because I won, everyone expects, or not everyone, a lot of people expect that you will just hand them money because they asked for it.
And what's the weirdest request you've gotten so far?
Actually, nothing really weird. They've mainly just been, please invest in this company. Can you help me out with this? Can you give me money because I mismanage my money, and if you give me more money, I won't mismanage the money you give me. And that's pretty much all it really is. There haven't been any really weird requests.
All right, let's talk about Mystical Voyages, because it's really they're involved with your winning. You were going there to teach. What were you teaching at Mystical Voyages at the time?
At the time, I was teaching a form of Reiki called Dragon Reiki. I'm really big with the dragons.
I noticed that from your MySpace.
Yes, I love the dragons. Well, they've always been a symbol in my life. So everywhere that I've looked when I was a child, as my mother put it, I used to have imaginary dragons I would play with. Well, not so imaginary, but that's okay. So dragons have always played a part in my life. So I was teaching a form of Reiki called Dragon Reiki. I was also teaching class on alchemy, and I was doing some Reiki treatments as well. So those are the different things that I was doing at Mystical Voyage.
So are you a Reiki master, just like Reiki certified, or?
Yes, number of systems. I'm one of those Reiki collectors. I collect them like a lot of people collect crystals. If I find a system that really resonates with me, I'll usually try and find a teacher who teaches it, and then I'll get it. Mainly from the perspective because I never know who's going to ask me for a treatment, and what, it all depends on the client as to what Reiki treatment I will actually use for them.
Because that can be really expensive. I recently inquired about some Reiki classes, and she's like, for Reiki 1 it was $150, for Reiki 2 it was $250 or $350, and then to get your Reiki master license, she's like, it's $10,000, and I'm like, $10,000? And she's like,
oh, that's crazy.
That's what I told her. I said, that is a scam. That's what I told her.
And no, you can find it much cheaper.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm like, I won't be going there for any Reiki classes. That was just outrageous. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about. We're talking about mystical voyages, so we'll continue with that, and then we'll go on to Willow Springs Sanctuary. So, you have invested in mystical voyages, correct? And are you teaching out of there now still?
Yes, and actually I'm also starting up a Wicca 101 class in March. We have the orientation meetings, and April is our first class.
Okay, and is Mystical Voyages, is that in Baltimore, Maryland?
Correct. It's actually, technically, it's in an area that they call Nottingham, but it's actually, it's close to White Marsh, Maryland. Most people know White Marsh, they don't know Nottingham.
So I would assume that you're making your classes more affordable than $10,000.
They are free.
They are free. That is wonderful.
They are free. I mean, when I do charge, for instance, in the month of March, I'm doing Dragon Reiki treatments, and all of the profits from those treatments are going to go to the American Diabetes Foundation. So at this point, even when there is a charge, those charges are actually going to be donations to charitable organizations.
And that really goes back to before you won the lottery, when you said that you would spend your life teaching the arts, correct? Correct. So that's what you're doing.
And I've been trying not only on individual scales and here at the store, through my various meetings with media and interviews, I've also been trying to educate people on what it is, what is paganism, what is Wicca, what is this world that we live in.
Yeah, because it's got a kind of negative connotation for people who don't know anything about it. They don't really understand where it started from and its roots, and that it was, before Christianity, and it's got a lot of negative press.
Right, correct. And because I had an opportunity to, I could have gone a couple different ways with this win. I could have pretty much stayed in the closet and not said anything, and just lived my life, or I could take the bull by the horns and say, okay, here's an opportunity. I was giving something very positive, so here's a way to turn that positive into an even bigger, hopefully, positive. By, educating people about what it is that we do and who we are, and, we are we're the next door neighbor, and people don't realize it.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, somebody told me that you taught ghost hunting classes. Is that true?
Yes, I have.
And do you still do that, or is that something is on the back burner?
Yep, we actually still do that. I have a class coming up, I think it's in April. What it is it's actually a tie-in. I teach a class on psychic shielding. And within that psychic shielding class, we talk about the various energies that are out there and that you will encounter. And most people consider that, especially negative influences and that kind of thing. And then I lead that into a field trip where we actually take people to a haunted area so that they can put their techniques into practice.
Well, that's that's very interesting. So, are you a psychic as well?
Yes.
Okay. Are you a medium or just a psychic?
Medium, psychic. I kind of lump it all together. Because for me, I see things, I hear things, and it varies on situations. I've talked to dead people. You name it. I run the gambit. I do tarot cards, psychometry, the full gambit. It all depends on who I'm with and what the situation is as to what occurs.
Do you feel this is hereditary on your end, or do you think it just is a freak thing?
No, I think everybody can do it. It's just a matter of developing it, realizing it, and accepting it. And I think that's where a lot of the acceptance part is a lot of where people falter. because not only from their own selves, but from the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because as kids, we're more susceptible, and we can see things and hear things better as children,
mm-hmm.
because we haven't been hit with all the negatives of, no, that's not real, no, that's not really happening, no, you're imagining things, it's your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow older, all of these things sink in.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not able to do the things that you could as a child.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is, you know, as an adult, if you try to develop these things, you have to get rid of all that negative press that
mm-hmm.
surrounds the things that we do,
mm-hmm.
so that you can accept that what you hear, see, and feel is real,
mm-hmm.
and then communicate that to other people.
Mm-hmm. So now,
anyone and everyone can do it.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've won the lottery, I know that before you said you were getting readings from other psychics and mediums, mm-hmm. trying to get on the path. Have you went outrageous and bought a really famous medium reading from anybody, or do you feel that you don't have the need anymore now that you've won?
No, I've never gone out and bought a really famous reading. I still pretty much, because I found readers, like here at Mystical Voyage, there's
uh-huh.
a couple that I will use, only because I talked with them, I trust them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big thing for me, and it
mm-hmm.
should be for everyone. You really need to get to know someone,
mm-hmm.
in my opinion, before you start to get readings and stuff from them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you want to know that the person that's sitting across the table from you is, you know, looking out for your benefit,
mm-hmm.
and not just, oh, I want to get money out of this person.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of readers out there that are just about that. It's all about the money. It's
mm-hmm.
not about how they may be able to help you and improve your life.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk about your wife just a little bit as well. She's a pagan as well, correct?
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
You're going to plead the fifth.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't believe in speaking about other people's beliefs.
All right. So she's supportive of your belief system, let's say. How's that?
Okay. You know, because it's for her to tell and not for me.
Okay.
All right. That's pretty much about everybody.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the organization you're starting, Willow
mm-hmm.
Springs Sanctuary.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Willow Springs Sanctuary is a church. It's going to be a pagan church mainly, but it will be accepting of people of all faiths. It really will not matter if you are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, whatever. You want to come into the building and you want to hold a service, as long as there is availability, you're more than welcome to come do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, it will also have other services just like mainstream religions have. There will be an education component to it. You know, again, continuing promoting of the religion. There will also be some more mundane classes, such as, you know, budgets, finances. There will also be programs for, you know, helping people who are below the poverty line. You know, because really, what organizations are there out there for pagans that, you know, if they need help, who do they go to? Who can you go to as a pagan? You know, other than like Catholic charities or, you know, stuff like that that aren't pagan organizations, and that you would have to hide who you are in order to get help.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that at some point I would love it to be the size of, you know, the Catholic Church, and have programs just like Catholic charities,
mm-hmm.
so that you don't have to hide who you are if you need help.
Well, that's a very honorable aspiration, and the website, folks, is www.willowspring-sanctuary.org. That's www.willowspring-sanctuary.org that he is talking about. And I'm sitting here cruising the site. It looks like you've got a bare bones shell up right now, correct?
Correct, yes. With everything that's happened in the last, 4 or 5 months, had a whole lot of time to spend, developing a website. But we did want to get a splash page up because right now I am still looking for the property. I haven't found that place yet to place the church.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at about 5 different properties a week, and I just haven't come across anything that screams, "Yay! Put me here! Put me here!"
Mm-hmm. So, do you use vision boards or anything like that?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Have you put? I guess you could just put a church up there and just envision that it comes your way.
Well, actually, and that's part of the problem, I think. I actually made this realization a couple weeks ago, is I have such a grand view of what I want that, the universe is looking at me and saying, okay, get a life here, and let's start small.
That's what I was about to tell you. Lots of
And
times,
we'll go from there.
if you start small and keep it vested to you, it's easier to organize and to run it first, and then take it to a larger scale from there. So, are you looking for teachers and stuff, or do you have a lineup of who you're going to use for this?
We have a lineup of people already. So it's really just a point of me actually coming down to reality and saying, okay, I need to start a little smaller and work my way up to it. Because I've looked at properties that have ranged from 1 acre of land to, there was a property that I looked at that actually was 75 acres. It already had 11 buildings on it that used to be a preparatory school that had, dormitories for people to, be able to stay over, spend the night, do retreat weekends, had gymnasiums and classrooms, and it came with all the computer equipment and the whole 9 yards. And at the time, they were asking $17 million for it. Mm-hmm. So that's the range of what I've been looking at. So I think the universe is looking at me now and saying, okay, you know what, get focused and do something. So I've actually contracted someone to actually draw up my vision of what the church should be. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point, once I can actually physically see it, then I think it will actually come.
Uh-huh. Well, that's great. And I also clicked on the link you have there to Mystical Voyage, and I see you have a grand opening coming up.
Oh, yes, we do. Because with my investment, we were able to expand Mystical Voyage on a grand scale.
Mm-hmm. I think you said 7,000 square feet now. That's huge.
It is huge. It's a lot larger than even I realized at first.
Uh-huh.
Because once, and it's actually pretty much completed at this point. We're actually, it's going to be open for business on March 1st. Mm-hmm. But then we're going to have the grand opening 14th, 15th, and 16th of March, that weekend. Mm-hmm. And it is huge. There's the yoga room, then we have a holistic healing center, we have a larger classroom, we have the gift shop, and then there is a huge coffee shop where we're going to be doing things with different musicians and different stuff over there, acoustic stuff, and just meetings and that kind of thing. And the other day I was actually standing outside of Mystical Voyage looking at it and saying, my God, this is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it looks like you got a lot going on there. And folks, that website is www.mysticalvoyage.com. That's www.mysticalvoyage.com. www.mysticalvoyage.com. It looks like you've got a lot going on here, Bunky. I'm sitting here looking, and it looks like a lot.
Yes, their calendar, which used to be basically a one-page thing,
I know, I'm
has now turned into an 8-page newsletter. Because we do. I mean, we have a total of 8 to 10 rooms where different readers and acupuncturists and reflexologists and herbalists are all going to be doing their thing. Mm-hmm. So the Holistic Healing Center is it's a big thing. We actually have therapists who are using our rooms as session rooms because we did soundproof all of the rooms so that if someone is having a tarot card reading or a massage or, a therapy session, you can't hear what's going on in that room because we wanted to also protect, people's privacy. And that's not something that a lot of places do.
That's very thoughtful.
Yeah, because soundproofing rooms are very expensive. And we wanted just to make sure that, everybody's privacy is respected.
That is very thoughtful. It sure does look like you have a whole lot going on, and it is so nice to see somebody that won the lottery and is so sharing with others and really making a good use of it in the community, because it looks like you're really doing a lot of outreach work. Now,
I'm trying.
Now, I know people are wondering that are listening, what did you blow money on? Is there anything, because I know you're an accountant and I think you're keeping your money pretty tight to your vest, but is there anything that you've went outrageous on? Is there anything that you just had to do?
Not something that I've had to do, but we did have little splurges. I did move. So I did buy a piece of property that sits on 23 acres of land. So, I went from a house on a quarter of an acre to a house on, 23 acres. So I did do that because I did want the privacy, surrounding myself with acreage. And I bought a few cars, and bought some artwork, but pretty much, not much other than that. Some jewelry. I had some custom pieces made that, I had always envisioned as part of, my spiritual practice. But some of the stuff was kind of like, oh, that's going to be expensive. Now I kind of look at it and say, oh, okay, I can get that made now.
And what about relatives? Have relatives expected a lot from you? Are they being pretty cool about it?
Yeah, they have been very cool about it.
That's wonderful.
Very cool. So, I did take care of my parents and her parents and our kids and that kind of thing. Made sure that, none of them ever have to work again in their entire life. So, we did do that. But outside of that, my family has been very good about it. None of them are, coming to me saying, oh, pay off my house, please help us, please help us. Really?
Because I was just, wondering if you had long-lost cousins coming out of the woodwork.
I have not had that at all. And it surprises me.
Really?
Because I thought I would. But,
Especially being public, because I think that's why a lot of people keep it private, because you have the choice of not having your name released, correct?
In some states you do, and actually in Maryland you do. But again, it was a part of, that was part of the decision-making process, because I could have just said, I don't want anyone to know, I don't want anything said, and just went about my merry way, or take it and use it as an opportunity to educate. And I chose to use it as an opportunity to educate.
Well, that's wonderful. Folks, we've been talking with Bunky Bartlett. He is the winner of around $49 million from the Mega Million lottery. We've been discussing the law of attraction and how he drew that to him, how he thought about it, envisioned winning, uses vision boards. And before we get off here, what's on your vision boards now? Now that you've won the lottery, what is on your vision board?
Really what's on my vision board is Willow Spring Sanctuary. That's my main focus right now, other than my teaching. Because as far as everything else is concerned, the winning of the lottery has afforded me the time to try and make all the other stuff happen. So right now, that's the biggest things on my vision board right now.
Well, great. All right, folks, if you want to see his websites, again, we have www.mysticalvoyage.com. That's www.mysticalvoyage.com. And then there is also www.willowsprings-sanctuary.org. That's www.willowsprings-sanctuary.org. Bunky, for anybody out there that is trying to win the lottery and is sitting there thinking, how can I win the lottery, what would be your advice to them?
Buy a ticket.
Buy a ticket. He's making fun of me because I told him I hardly ever play. I can't never remember to buy one.
Well, that was my problem too a lot is, I would keep saying, oh, I'm going to go buy a ticket, and then I'd get home and it'd be like, oh, I forgot. So the biggest thing, if you want to win the lottery, really, and they used to have a slogan here, it used to be, you got to play to win. And you really do. Even if you make all the bargains in the world with the universe, you still got to play to win.
That's right. And don't be discouraged if you don't win the
Exactly.
first time, the 10th time. Just kind of keep the faith. And it's that way with anything when you're using the law of attraction. It doesn't happen instantly. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it takes months, and sometimes it actually takes years. But,
I'm 41 years old, so,
mm-hmm.
It takes time.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. I want you to hold on just a second. I want to speak to you for 1 second. Folks, you've been listening to A Glimpse Through the Veil with Gabreael. Next week, we will have a haunted homeowner on in our Haunted Homeowner series. He's from Canada, and he's going to tell us about his Canadian home. He's only lived in, I believe he told me, around 2 years. The house has been sold repeatedly in that before he bought it. And apparently he has a train that drops off ghosts in his house. So we will be talking to him next week live. Stay tuned for that. Thank you and have a good night.